Welcome to the home of MMA. Do you know even though Khamzat Chimaev is shifting his focus to the middleweight category, he will continue to respond to welterweights who continue to mention him? Excited to know about this? Colby Covington addressed a prospective clash against Chimaev in a press conference before UFC 286 on Saturday after UFC President Dana White stated for weeks that was the fight the company wanted to schedule. Because the match was cancelled, Covington has been named the top contender at 170 pounds, while Chimaev is expected to make his middleweight comeback in October. He's a joke, Covington said about Chimaev. The guy stinks at fighting. He's unprofessional, and I don't want to ever hear that guy's name again. So the news is that Covington was primarily upset with Chimaev because of his last performance in September, when he was supposed to fight Nate Diaz, but ended up facing Kevin Holland instead, because he was too heavy for welterweight and tipped the scales at 178.5 pounds. Chimaev is now anticipated to shift to middleweight permanently as a result of that occurrence, but he claims that wasn't because of a lack of effort on his part to obtain the fight against Covington, despite it being repeatedly given to him. Let me tell you something spicy. Chimaev claims that he only ever had a passing meeting with Covington when they both trained at the UFC Performance Institute in Las Vegas. Chimaev adds that although there was no significant altercation, they briefly locked eyes before Covington allegedly turned around and fled. When I see him in the UFC Performance Institute, he sees me. He turns around, Chimaev said. He ran somewhere, I didn't see him anymore. If he wants to fight, just come up like me. Try to come up. Everyone's talking about that. He doesn't want to fight him. I fight with everybody. Isn't this sounding interesting to you? Chimaev seems to be devoting his attention to middleweight for the time being, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't seize the chance to compete against Covington if it came up. He thinks that if Covington wanted to fight him, they could decide on a weight class and make it happen. However, Chimaev is skeptical that this hypothetical pairing of opponents will ever come to pass. Although White was sure that the Chechen Mauler will compete once more in October with the forthcoming UFC 294 card scheduled for Abu Dhabi on October 21st, Chimaev still hasn't scheduled his next fight. So, the facts are that the following title fight is most likely going to be between Covington and George Masvidal, who Covington defeated at UFC 272. Although there were many rumors about a fight with Chimaev in recent months, the UFC decided not to book it. Despite the fight not happening, Covington and Chimaev don't seem to be involved. Here are the intensive remarks of Covington. Covington attacked Chimaev during a UFC 286 press conference and explained why the fight negotiations fell through. What do you think about the situation? He talks all this crap. He talks about me in the media. Covington exclaimed they gave him a fight against soy boy Nate Diaz, and he couldn't make weight by 9 pounds. The guy stinks at fighting. He's unprofessional. The guy couldn't hold me. We talked about it. I wanted to derail that hype train. I saw the quitter in him from the start. Chimaev quickly replied in an Instagram comment on a post that was specifically about Covington's words. Since defeating Kevin Holland at UFC 279 last year, Chimaev hasn't competed, until a disastrous weight-cutting attempt forced the UFC's hand and a change of opponents occurred. He was set to compete against Nate Diaz in the main event. The likelihood of a Covington vs Chimaev fight in the future is still present, but it is becoming less likely with Chimaev's intention to jump to middleweight. Later this year, potentially as early as October, he is anticipated to square off against a top 3 middleweight challenger. Covington and Chimaev's argument, which got lost in the cracks, is still going back and forth, and tension between the two sides is growing. The fans are worried about this situation and are waiting for further news. Let's hope for the best. Well, that's it for today's video. Goodbye, till the next video.